Hello everyone, welcome. This is Sound Design Monday episode 14. And today we are going to be taking a little tour into the ambient world. Today's sound is not going to be made specifically to, hard, rough, loud. It's going to be really smooth, ambient, kind of inspired. It can be used for jazz productions, chill trance productions, and ambient music. So without further ado, this is the sound we are going to be creating. Lower octave, higher octave. Okay, so pretty much the sound is just going to be composed of a little bit of melancholy waves, a color, and some math too to kind of cover the low end of it. The pitches we are going to be using, they're really techie kind of chords. I'm sure many of you have ran across some presets where you start playing notes, they sound really different compared to what other presets sound like, and that's because they're tech chords. That's what I like to call them, and they can be found a lot in ambient or tech house. But they have their little way. Like in order to create a melody with them, you have to really think out of the box. You have to get out of your comfort zone if you're used to just using leads that are going to be using the same pitches, like 12s, 5, or 7. So the tech chords tend to stay in the even. So usually they're like the 8 or 4 or 2, and they have a really unique sound to them that will not stay in tune if you play a normal scale. But anyways, let's get started in making the sound. If you're interested, you can stick around. If not, as you guys know, I have other tutorials, so let's get started, okay? So for oscillator 1, we are going to be using a melancholia from the FX/chord section of Massive. Now this melancholia sounds really smooth from the moment you put it on. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be lowering that down by an octave of 12. So we're going to lower that by -12. Okay, and we're going to have our wavetable all the way up, intensity all the way up, and amp at around 4. Not all the way up, but just there. We're going to route that to filter 1. This sound is just going to use one filter, no 2 filters today. Now we're going to go to oscillator 2, and we're going to go to the colors from, again, our chord section, and the color is going to sound, again, smooth and jazzy, kind of inspired kind of sounds. So we're going to be having wavetable position all the way up, intensity all the way up, and amp all the way up. We're going to route that up, and that's going to be pitched all the way up to 50. So if you think about the pitch, -12, so 12 times 4, that's going to be around 36 plus 4, 48. So this is going to be a 2. So just imagine this being a 2. So if it would be like this if it was at the bottom. So like I said, the tech chords tend to stay in even numbers, while the normal chords tend to stay in the odd numbers. So usually that's what's going to happen. Okay, -12 there. Okay, now we go into oscillator 3. We're going to be applying a rough math 2 spectrum, wavetable all the way up, intensity up, and amp up. And that's going to be really more of the bottom end of the sound. So that's going to be at -8, again, an even number. Okay, so then we go into our noise section. Now this noise, you can choose to add it or not. I mean, if we take it off, it's all in preference. The reason I add the white noise is because this is more of an ambient kind of sound, and once you apply a lot of reverb onto the sound, that white noise isn't going to sound as frizzly like if we were to put like a bit crusher on it. So it's going to kind of even out. So usually white noise tends to make sound bigger. It makes it wider in general. So we have the color for bright noise all the way up, which is going to cover more of the high frequencies. So pretty much the color, if we have it bottom, you're going to hear more of the lower frequencies of the noise, but the higher the color, the more of the highs you get. And usually I tend to put my noise in the highs. Okay, so once we have that noise there, pretty much we are almost done. We are going to go into filter 1, and we're going to apply a Daft Filter, which is another type of a low pass. It just has a different characteristic that tends to make sounds sound a little bit more smoother. You're going to put the cutoff all the way down, and you're going to leave it there, and the resonance all the way down as well. Okay. Now I want to go into the voicing section. This is where you decide how many voices are going to come out of every oscillator. So we're going to be putting a unisono of 4. sound is going to be polyphone, and like always, polyphone means multiple, so you can play more than one note at a time. So you can play some chords, and when it's monophone, it's just one note at a time. So it kind of emulates the analog sound. Now we have the pitch cutoff, and the pitch cutoff is pretty much another term for the detune. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna set this to 7, and you're gonna drag the icon all the way to the right, and we're gonna be changing this from center to chord. Okay, and then we go into our wavetable position, and you just want it all the way to the left, and this is going to be a value of 100, which should be like that by default. And then our pan position pretty much decides like how the sound is going to come out of. Like in length 1, we have that retrig function that tends to make the sound stay in mono. So the sound, the left and right are always equal to each other in the volume spectrum. So here you can do the same. We have the mono, full invert, and the full. So we want a little bit of mono and a little bit of full, some stereo. So we're just going to leave it here, like probably 3/4 all the way to the right from mono. So just around here in the middle. Okay. So pretty much once we have that, I believe if we go into our envelope 4, which is always going to be routed to your amp. Your amp is where the sound is going to be coming out of. So pretty much your amp is the last place the sound reaches before it hits the speakers, or hits Ableton, and then it goes from Ableton to speakers. And pretty much in the amp you decide the characteristics. So here you can increase your attack, which will give you a slower kind of padish organ. Like that, or you can have a high attack. So the attack, like always stress, it just decides how fast your sound's coming in. So pads tend to have a super high attack where they're all the way up here, and the reason for that is because you generally want your pad to sound smooth. You don't want it to just come out full blast, sound like a lead. And leads tend to have a low attack, so all the way here, maybe a little bit higher. But yeah, so what you kind of wanted. Probably that's going to be preference, but the attack probably around here, like around 11 o'clock. Level all the way up, of course, you want your sound to kind of just reach its max volume that you're going to be allowing it to through your master. Decay is going to be how fast it reaches a sustain level, and we're going to leave that at around, let's see, 2 o'clock. Level, so you want the sound to come in loud and then like decay into a sustain. And we're going to put the level at around 1 o'clock. So as you can see, sound comes in. This is the max volume, and it goes down into a sustain here, and then it reaches the release. So now once we have this, we go into our release, the final step, and you're going to put it all the way down. So you're not going to get anything left over. But if we had a high release, you're going to hear like that sound coming. It's like kind of like a reverb. Okay, so low release, and there we go. Now we go into envelope 1, and we're going to route this to our cutoff. So we're going to give this sound more, like keep it in the low frequencies. So what we're going to do is for envelope 1, we are going to have a super low attack. So it's going to be instant pretty much. High level, decay is going to be set to 1 o'clock. And our level is going to be set to 4. And our release is going to be set to 4. So generally, for those of you who haven't seen my previous tutorials, what's going on here is the attack is going to decide how fast the knob is going to turn to a certain value, which is going to be decided by you, and then it's going to slowly go back to normal through the decay, and then the release is going to decide how fast it goes. So there's like 2 steps. So we turn the knob all the way, it slowly starts going down, and then boom, it goes down straight away. So generally you'll tend to hear this more once you hold down the D. Once you hold down the key, you'll tend to hear the envelope kind of work more. So what we're going to do is, once you have these characteristics, release at 4, decay at 1, attack all the way down, level, and so forth here, we're going to route this to cutoff for filter 1. And what we are going to do is we're just going to hold it and pull it up to around 10 o'clock. And you can kind of hear it. And if you hold it, the sound slowly goes down a little bit. If you were to hold it a little bit more, you would eventually hear the sound go to 0. Okay, so once we have that, let's go into our effects. So for effects 1, we are going to be applying a C-tube, some sort of a kind of a drive. which is gonna make the sound just a little bit louder. So we want that at around 11 or 12. That's going to be your choice there. Our drive's going to be at 11. You're going to set that there. It's going to be fixed. That means it's not going to change, so you can control the dry and wet. Okay, and then we go into our reverb. We're not going to have that much reverb here. We're going to leave it at 8. Our size is going to be at 2. So it's emulating the size of a room. Density at all the way up and color all the way up. Again, like how I explained color in the bright noise, same thing applies here. In our EQ, we're going to leave the low shelf at 12, the boost at 3. Frequency at around like a little bit before 12, and the high shelf a little bit before 12 as well. And once we have that, we should be getting the sound you're hearing. Okay, so hopefully this tutorial is kind of helpful. I kind of want to change it up. I don't want to kind of make similar types of sounds. I want to kind of give you guys a variety of ways. You remember, sound design is all about experimentation. There's no right or wrong way. Sometimes you can achieve certain sounds through different methods. But as always, sound design should be fun. It should be something you should practice on. Take my guidelines whenever I make a tutorial. My goal here is for you guys to kind of see, okay, so this is how you make this certain type of sound. So when I tell you guys a high attack generally makes a pad, well, now you know how to create a pad. It's just you experimenting with what type of waves you're using, what pitch they're at, the wavetable positions, modulation, whether you want some or not, some LFO, what kind of filter, and so forth. And that's going to give you some amazing sounds. Sound design is all about experimentation. There's basics to it, like, okay, a lead should have a low attack so it comes out fast. A bass should always have a low attack so it comes out fast, and so much more. But you can always break those rules, and you can always create your own sounds. But anyways, guys, hopefully this tutorial was helpful. If you guys have any more requests, you can message me on Facebook, leave a comment on Facebook, leave a comment on this video, like my video. And yeah, so make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll see you guys next time.